Hi, I'm Amelia.
And hi, I'm Eleni.
And we are the
Marea
duo.
We are so excited to present our first episode of the Marea and Friends concert series. Tonight we have our first guest, Mr. Frank Morelli, who not only is my current mentor and professor at the Yale School of Music, but is such an inspiration to all artists and everyone right now.
Frank Morelli, first bassoonist awarded a Juilliard doctorate, has been a Carnegie Hall soloist 9 times and performed at the last White House State Dinner for President Clinton. Co-principal bassoon of the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, he was principal of the NYC Opera for 27 years. He teaches at Juilliard, Yale, the Manhattan School of Music, SUNY Stony Brook, and Queens College. His 170-plus recordings include solo CDs, From the Heart, Romance and Caprice, Bassoon Brasileiro, and Baroque Fireworks. Gramophone magazine proclaimed that Morelli's playing is a joy to behold. American Record Guide stated, "The bassoon playing is as good as it gets." The Orpheus CD, Shadow Dances, featuring Frank Morelli, was a Grammy winner. He has appeared at the most prestigious chamber music festivals worldwide and is a member of Windscape, the quintet in residence at the Manhattan School of Music. He compiled the landmark excerpt book, Stravinsky, Difficult Passages for the Bassoon, and has published numerous transcriptions. His unprecedented edition, the first complete Weisenborn method and studies, has been widely acclaimed. Frank Morelli plays a Leitzinger bassoon exclusively.
We are truly honored to have Mr. Morelli as our first guest on the Marea and Friends concert series, and we cannot wait to discuss the vocal approach to playing your instrument and this great program that we have in store for you tonight.
Hope you enjoy.
The first piece on the program is Handel's Trio Sonata for oboe, bassoon, and basso continuo. Handel is a German composer, but spent majority of his time in London. Tonight, we will be highlighting the fact that Handel was well known for being a composer of opera and oratorios in the Baroque style, which nicely ties into the fact that the theme of tonight's episode is the vocal approach to playing your instrument. The trio sonata was one of the earlier genres that Handel explored, and then later transformed into writing more opera and for the voice. Handel had a very great understanding of counterpoint and writing very cantabile or songful melodies for all instruments. In this piece, you will notice that the 3 voices, the oboe, bassoon, and the basso continuo, weave in and out of the texture throughout. The movements alternate in speed and intensity, and each have a slightly different character. Movement 1 sets the stage for the evening and is very elegant and formal. Movement 2 is dance-like, movement 3 is very somber and melodious, and then movement 4 is very playful and jaunty, and you can notice the dialogue between the first bassoon and the oboe. The basso continuo really provides the harmonic structure and the stability or foundation for every movement. We are so excited to perform this piece for you tonight as the first piece on the Marea and Friends concert series.
Record on this. Okay.
Is it recording? Okay, we're
Meeting is
recording.
being recorded. I'm leaving the meeting. Okay. All right, I'll stay.
Right, for people who are just tuning in, is the vocal approach to playing your instrument. So we're going to start the first question being you telling us a little bit about your journey on the bassoon and how your voice on the bassoon has kind of evolved over the course of your career.
Well, that's a good question. I happened onto the bassoon by chance because they needed bassoonist in the high school band and orchestra. Not an unusual story, certainly for my generation. I was a saxophone player and took up the bassoon, as I said, purely just because they needed one at school. I thought, okay, I'll try the bassoon. not with a sense of purpose or like that it was my mission in life to become a bassoonist, so that had nothing to do with it. I think I always liked kind of singing on an instrument. I would play the tenor. I like to listen to people like Stan Getz, and in terms of sound, singing kind of sound like that, and Paul Desmond and Johnny Hodges and those kind of old time, Ben Webster, the old time players. And of course, I appreciated the more brilliant athletic types, of course, Charlie Parker and Coltrane and people like that could also turn a beautiful phrase. But I guess I was enamored of sound.
Mm.
But that was certainly very unsophisticated and only natural proclivity, natural thing that I was into it. And then you really have to fast forward to when I decided to make bassoon a career, as opposed to the instrument I would major in music ed, which is how I started my college years, was to become a band director, like my band director. My family had no musical background. They were factory workers, essentially in the garment business. So I grew up, in a blue-collar home. Great, no problems. Not like we didn't, we had plenty to eat. Life was good in our little house. But I certainly didn't grow up like in a home filled with music, classical music.
Yeah.
Music, yes. The radio, so 50s and 60s hits, and Italian songs and Frank Sinatra and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but then when I started studying with Stephen Maxim, Mr. Maxim, who you've heard about.
Yes.
Eleni has heard
I've heard lots.
her grand teacher.
Yes.
And so he was first bassoon at the Metropolitan Opera for many years, from around World War II, a little even before, and then he went into the service and then came back after serving for like 5 years, came back to music. Survived, thankfully. And he was on convoy duty, so he might not have survived. He was out in the Atlantic getting shot at by U-boats, so we're glad he made it. And he himself said when he came back and he got back in shape and was doing his job, he felt he had technically got himself into shape, but he wasn't thrilled with his sound, his approach, and certainly listening to the singers just above him or behind him in a rehearsal, he was feeling that he wasn't adequate. He needed to do better. And so he really took it upon himself to, in a way, analyze them, listen to them, even talk to them, and model ideas after what he observed, what he learned, from various sources. And you're the benefit of that because I teach what he taught me.
Yeah.
And then in his day, the great tenor that he would often talk about was a guy named U.C. Bjerling, Scandinavian, who could really could spin a phrase. And Mr. Maxim would talk about how he literally could have he'd cause members of the orchestra like not to come in after a rest because they were listening so intently to him.
Yeah.
He'd be kind of mesmerized. And so I started listening to him and even kind of playing along with him, and continued that with the tenor Fritz Wunderlich, who was younger and has many recordings. And in our class, as Eleni knows, I always say, my colleague Fritz is with us today to help me teach.
Yes.
And we listen to him and try to emulate him, and I do myself. So over the years, I've listened to singers and tried to emulate them. And as you know, Eleni, from what I say, it's not that I would try to listen to them and then just interpret the piece that they had sung. I would actually, like someone imitating a character, like say on Saturday Night Live, someone being on there and imitating Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, whoever you want to say, during a sketch, and they try to take on their sound and their mannerisms. I would literally try to copy what I heard.
Yeah.
And as if I were imitating them, and not this is now my version of the same Mozart aria that Fritz Wunderlich sang. And so over time, I think that really influenced my concept of playing and of making music. Now, the intensity of that kind of singing is not always appropriate. I often, to follow that line of thinking, and again, I think you've heard me say this, Eleni, but, as players, as wind players especially, we go from being at times in the choir or choir boys, choir girls, but that choir boy sound, to like Schubert songs, lead, something a little more intense and sculpted and more individual, because obviously in the choir you're supposed to blend. You're not going to sing the same way as you would in other ways. Then let's say lead, to light opera, like a Rossini opera type of singing, his more comic operas, to the bel canto operas, to Verdi, to ultimately, especially in the case of the horn, the ring, Wotan or Siegfried, which is the horn, in Siegfried's long call, or horn call, right? So we have to be able to play with all those sounds and those levels of intensity and styles. But even when you're floating more, you're trying not to be so direct, so much up front, the sense of line, the sense of voicing from note to note is still totally relevant. It's totally relevant. Some of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten were people saying not, wow, what a great double tongue. Boy, you can play fast. But, oh boy, that sound or the way you played that phrase, or, to plug a friend, Amelia has a teacher named Stephen Taylor, plays the oboe that way. He can play 2 or 3 notes in a row, and you just say those are 3 of the most beautiful notes I ever heard in my life. It's not showing off. It's not, it's just the choice of sound and inflection and vibrato and expression is so beautiful. And I'd say he's someone that I've tried to match. He's someone that has been someone I admired since we first started playing together. Started playing together 45 years ago. So he's been a good teacher all these years. I've tried to learn from him. So I'd say that's kind of where it came from for me. And I think everything I play, I try to think I'm singing. That makes it just that much more enjoyable to do. And the expression that comes with that, seeking expression. And some of the music tonight, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Seeking expression using those concepts. Francisco Mignone is a composer near and dear to my heart. His parents emigrated from Italy to Rio de Janeiro in more than 130 years ago, something like that, probably over 100 years ago. My family immigrated through Ellis Island into the New York area and beyond as time went on. I'm second generation Italian American, whereas Mr. Mignone is first generation Italian Brazilian American. There are a lot of Americans, one might say, from the Hudson Bay of Canada down to the very bottom of South America. His music is Brazilian. He made a point of saying that he embraced the culture of his new homeland. Part of that was, in fact, that getting or overthrowing European influence in music was a form of overthrowing colonialism of the time that had gone by. Brazil was now for some time an independent country and felt the artists of Brazil felt they should develop their own culture and not just be following European tradition. So the main composer at that time, the leader of that in the area of composition, was Heitor Villa-Lobos, very famous composer, many of you are probably familiar with. So I'm going to play 2 pieces, one by Mignone and one by Villa-Lobos. The Mignone is written for bassoon solo. The Villa-Lobos was written to be sung by soprano with either an orchestra of cellos or in his own guitar transcription. I recorded the guitar transcription with my colleague Ben Verdery of the Yale School of Music. Anyway, first we have the Mignone, and he had quite a sense of humor. He wrote 16 waltzes for solo bassoon for a French bassoonist who had immigrated to Rio named Noël DeVos, had gone there in about 1950. This particular song's written in 1981. This particular waltz, I should say. And it has a funny name because it says, essentially, this love song is one Villa-Lobos did not write. No, I wrote this. Mr. Mignone wrote it. And you'll hear it's a beautiful, imploring, sweet song, I'd like to think, and I hope you'll enjoy that. I will follow that, a cappella, one might say, with the theme from the Bachianas Brasileiras aria Cantilena. The opening of it is, in fact, a vocalise, and I will stop at the end of that vocalise section. When I recorded the whole thing. The middle section has words, and it's talking about the moon rising and all of nature being awe-inspired by her beauty. And then, of course, and the reflection of the moon on the water, and the moon bringing people to think of their losses, their sadness. So in some ways, it's reminiscent of the Schumann songs in terms of lost love. Again, in both of these songs, in the Waltz for Bassoon is really a song. He calls it a Mojinya, which, as I said, sort of a sweet, sad love song, you might say. Again, in a vocalise kind of way this time, without having words to try to speak, as in the case of the Schumann songs. We're talking more about line. We're thinking, and when I'm playing, more about maintaining, I hope, a beautiful line, a beautiful sound throughout both pieces. in discussing the whole idea of bringing the vocal quality to your instrument, it seems pretty obvious that one might play some music originally written for the voice. And so, luckily for me, my wife Bethany is a fine pianist, and so we'd like to offer you 4 of the songs from the Dichterliebe of Robert Schumann. That means it's the story of a poet's love. We're doing numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the group. These are songs about love, and ultimately we know a lost love, so it's a bittersweet thought of love. The first of the 4 we're going to play for you is entitled When I Look Into Your Eyes. And he says, all my pain and sorrow vanish, but when I kiss your lips, then I am wholly healed. When I lay my head against your breast, heavenly bliss steals over me. But when you say I love you, I must weep bitter tears. So we know not everything is working out too well for this young poet. And in the next song, he says, let me bathe my soul in the lily's chalice. He's looking for comfort amongst the lilies, amongst the flowers, which is a dialogue that goes on in several of the songs. Thinking about the kiss she once gave him in a wonderful hour. And then number 6 is about the Rhine, and you'll hear it starts out rather ponderously like we're out on the waves in the Rhine. In the Rhine, the holy river, there is reflected in the waves with its great cathedral, the great and holy Cologne, the Cologne Dome. And if you've ever been on the Rhine River there, and you'll see the dome really is quite an impressive sight. And then from there, things get much more gentle, and he's describing a picture hanging inside the cathedral of the Virgin Mary. And as he looks at this beautiful picture, he begins to think of his love. A little bit blasphemous, you might say. And then in the last song we will play for you, for quite grumbly, he says, I bear no grudge, while he grumbles his way through the entire song. He says, I bear no grudge, though my heart is breaking. Oh, love forever lost, I bear no grudge. However you gleam in diamond splendor, no ray falls in the night of your heart. So he goes on talking this way, and at the end of the song, it almost sounds like he's walking down the path. He's left the house or slammed the door, always protesting too much, one might say, that he doesn't bear a grudge, but he certainly does, and he certainly is heartbroken. What's fun about doing these songs, or say rewarding more than fun, although they are fun, is that one understands these words, and that we know that Schumann put a lot of thought, as do all composers, great composers of song, put a lot of thought in how the music and the words go together. On top of that, you have the choice of alliterations and just the choice of consonants and vowels, and often at the most important moment, it could be, or the strongest moment will be a word with a strong consonant, a K or a T, and other times words are elided, or syllables are elided, and it's much lighter. So even though we're playing instruments and not pronouncing those words, we can spend a lot of time trying our very best through the use of color, articulation on our instrument, inflection, to mimic what a singer can do so profoundly as he or she sings the words. So we hope you'll enjoy it.
do you want to ask the next question? Yeah, because the next question's about like what do you do to help your student, and I feel like if I ask that question,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
have to say, well, in Elaine's case, there's nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopeless.
Kind
No,
of a lost cause, but
yeah, can't be helped.
Yeah, so if a student is struggling to like find their voice or their sort of what they want to sound like on their instrument, what are some general techniques or what like some advice that you would give them to help them kind of find their voice?
And then also to add on to that a little bit, so it broadens out past the bassoon and it's for all instruments. When someone's looking
Sure.
at a phrase, what are some of like when you first are looking at a phrase, how would you recommend to kind of like give them the momentum to figure out where they want to direct that phrase and how they want to go with it? Yeah.
well, in terms of finding your sound or your voice, if you mean by that, I mean, would you, in asking that question, Amelia, would you say that part of that finding your voice is finding your sound?
Yes.
Okay, as part of it, because finding your voice is also kind of along the lines of expression.
Yeah.
Both. My standard teaching line, it's not like I always like read a syllabus. Okay, we're talking about tone now, but in terms of things like you say about listening to singers, like I was talking about, just remember right away there, I'm not listening to bassoon players, not even listening to oboe players, although Mr. Taylor would be a good one to listen to.
Yeah.
And well, I have actually. I just don't put on his records all the time. I just have the benefit of sitting with him and hearing him, learning that way. It's even better. Earn while you learn.
Yeah.
But what are the sounds you've heard that you have thought, that is as beautiful as it gets? Like, that's a beautiful sound. And now, I think I've heard Ella Fitzgerald make some sounds, or Sarah Vaughan, that I thought, there is nothing more beautiful than that sound. And I'd say the same for Wunderlich. Lately, I was getting into Hermann Prey, who's the baritone sort of version of Fritz Wunderlich from the same era. But Wunderlich died young, so Hermann Prey, stayed around a lot longer. And Hermann Prey was sort of during the Fischer-Dieskau era. But Hermann Prey's style almost, it was funny lately, I was listening and thinking, he sounds like Wunderlich, but with a lower voice. Like there was just something about his approach to singing and resonating and direction a little more than Dieskau is a little more warm and rounded. Both beautiful, it's just like two really gorgeous singers, So find your voice by getting outside your own instrument. And what I like to say is you can't make the sound come out of your instrument. What you control is your concept of what you're putting into it. Finding, just like you sing, you go from resonance to resonance, from note to note when you sing, if you do it right, and both of you do, I've heard you sing. So, and great singers do that.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to copy. If you go for that resonance, I think you'll get the right sound out of your instrument. Now, if you're not feeling motivated, I remember there was an oboe player one time. I went down to New World to coach, and this young, he's been quite successful oboe player, basically said, I've had a dozen great oboe players tell me how to play Scheherazade, Don Juan, and Brahms Violin Concerto. I'm like, tied up in knots, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I said to him, put all that stuff away. Think of some music you would just love to play. Like makes your mouth water like looking at a menu. And that could be, I don't care, it could be Bach chorales, Beatle tunes, bebop, oboe music, violin music, anything that turns you on. And fall back in love. Fall back in love. Just play music because you love it more than anything else in the world. I love my family for sure, and the happiness is being with them. And when you have a little one, holding him or her in your arms doesn't get any more, like paradise, heavenly than that. But being in the middle of great music, playing great music by yourself or in an ensemble, for me it's heaven on earth, fall back in love with it. So if you're getting out of it, like if you're finding yourself astray, remember why you play. Of course, you love it. And if you're not totally thrilled with your sound, think about it. Think about what great singing, the thing is, and try to find more than one.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, like to me, Hermann Prey is baritone, Wunderlich is tenor. I hear same qualities in both of those voices. I also hear that in Pavarotti, who I had the good fortune to back up a number of times and hear live, which was, that's like, the golden sunset, like just being around, like the most amazing phenomenon to hear this guy sing. And that's great singing. It's a little more intense and high, like from a bassoon perspective. But he sings the same way. Slightly, his voice was a little different in the qualities. Beautiful, but different. But he sings the same way. And like you said, Jessie Norman. Someone like Jessie Norman. You listen to the way that woman, it's just bewitching in sound. And you can learn from that.
Yeah.
I play for you that the Rachmaninoff Vocalese,
Yes.
Anna Moffo and Stokowski. And I say, if you can, I play that for clarinet players, especially because of the range. And I say, if you could create a legato like she does, you got it made. That's what I would say. Now, in terms of phrasing, it's the same thing. Learn from great singers.
Yep.
Sure, harmonically, motivically, you can understand where you're going. But remember, it's I call it, as interior phrasing. Because when singers sing, there's an inflection towards the next note. Often players, the idea of notes being tied together in a phrase is not to do with like slurring or getting louder or softer. It's about the inflection, the intensity in a note leading to the next note. Just like I'm talking to you now. I'm phrasing what I'm saying. And when I stop to take a breath, you don't think, why did he stop? We're conditioned. I left. I didn't leave the word before my breath.
Yeah.
Cut off. That sounds weird. Like what happened to the signal? Zoom went, right? Right? If I say I left the word before my breath and then I continued, I phrased that last note. The Schumann songs that I'll be playing with Mrs. Morelli, my wife Bethany. The two of us too, we had fun with it. She's pointing out from the way the piano part is set, and we're reading the words and hearing the quality of those words in terms of the German pronunciations, because we know that a composer of Schumann's ability, or Mozart or Beethoven, many others, but we're talking about Schumann. Incredible amount of thought goes into how do those words fit into the harmony, into the motive, into where's the stress, what's unstressed, what word starts with a K, what starts with a Liebe, love, right? So doing that, you really can identify literally on your oboe, for instance.
Yeah.
Like, play that phrase like you are saying those syllables. And perhaps going too far. In other words, perhaps you'll play them and scoop a little bit and do some things that, like I said, are not appropriate to some of the playing we do.
Yeah.
Or virtually any of the playing we do, perhaps. Just to leave open it's possible, right? So then you have to put it through the filter of proper taste and whatever that is, but there are certain social norms, you might say, in the orchestra world and all the expectations. So I'd say, go for it. Like I've said to students before, even about repertoire, I say, or when they're playing, I say, bring this back next week and try to gross me out. Play it so outlandishly. I say, wait, stop! I've created a monster. Sometimes it's just like stretching. I know, Eleni is yoga. Now, of course, that's not like doing yoga and then going out and playing tennis.
Yeah.
Like you're stretching, you're a competitive tennis player, baseball player, runner, right? You're stretching far beyond the actual effort that your muscles or tendons are going to go through at that moment of your physical, your athletic your event, the thing you're doing. So it's like a stretch yourself beyond, and then you're not at your limits all the time. You've stretched yourself in all directions. All that means is you have a much bigger palette to paint off of. And you may not go to that day glow up in the corner too often, you know. You may not go to some hot pink all the time. But you can do hot pink as well as you can do blue and green and tan and yellow and white when you want it, just to be not colorless, but more of a, whatever that is, blendable sound or something like that. So you have to stretch yourself and just keep stretching yourself, pushing the envelope, as people say. And then you have even a wider array of expressive possibilities. Yeah.
The next piece on the program tonight will be an arrangement of Gershwin's Summertime. Gershwin wrote this piece in 1935, and it is originally heard in Porgy and Bess. This arrangement was done by our friend and colleague Marea Ford. Marea is an oboist, educator, and multi-instrumentalist. He has made a brief video introducing the piece and talking about his thoughts and inspiration for the arrangement. So I hope you enjoy our performance of Summertime.
Hey there, my name is Marea Ford. I'm a native of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and I'm a composer, multi-instrumentalist, and educator. Super excited to have collaborated with the Marea duo for this arrangement of Summertime. It's a tune that I really enjoy, a tune that they enjoy. And one of the things that I like about it is the harmonies that are included. I have a background in gospel music. I grew up in church, playing at church. And so harmony is something that really speaks to me. And so I took the opportunity to explore some of the harmonies in the tune. When writing a duet, you have to do a little bit more to make sure that you get all the parts, since you only have two voices to work with. But I did want to make sure that I gave each player something interesting to play, but also making sure that it lies well in the instrument, in addition to giving them something that was a little bit technical. And the Marea duo is unique in that both instrumentalists sing as well. So I wanted to make sure that I incorporated that, especially for something like Summertime. So I'm really happy with the product. They are happy, and so we hope that you enjoy it as well. Here's Summertime.
Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your mama's good looking. cry. One of these mornings, you're going to rise up singing. Then you'll spread your wings and you'll take to the sky. But till that morning, there's nothing can harm you. With Daddy and Mommy standing by.
Why do you assemble your bassoon every day and practice during this time when a lot of things seem really uncertain? And what gives you inspiration? How do you find inspiration during this time, and really what keeps you going?
This is sort of like the part that ties into the final piece that we'll play.
So,
But
yeah.
where have you found a silver lining during this pandemic? So I'll kind of.
Well, I have found a couple. One sort of really wonderful and obvious one. I mean, Mrs. Morelli and I play together sometimes, but long periods of time would go by where we don't play together. I mean, just life. We go through life, and running in and out, doing it. And she comes down and practices piano. She's not a professional pianist. She had studied piano as well as bassoon in school back when she was a student. And she's an excellent musician, but she had left the profession. So, she feels, as we all do if we don't practice enough, the sense of whether you have enough chops, to really do everything you want to do. Especially when you're someone who is professional, as she was, especially on the bassoon, playing major stuff, around New York and everything. So when one is used to playing at that level, that you're aware of it. But we play for fun. And we did. One of the, earlier on was a different silver lining, but we used to play when our son was in school, a kid. He played saxophone, and we had the Morelli trio, and we made up our own, arrangements, and we would play together, piano, sax, alto, and bassoon. And we just would arrange stuff, play stuff. Yeah. But when everything shut down the way it did, I had a special need to want to communicate. Part of it was the things I was looking forward to over the summer, including the IDRS convention, etc. Forget it. Everything was closed down. And as you know, I've been playing the last few years on this Leitzinger bassoon, Stefan Leitzinger's instrument. And I have been representing him and trying to promote the instrument. But I hadn't done very much online about it or anything. A few times I'd say, can hear this concert playing on my indicator what the Leitzinger sounds like, something like that. But when this happened, I became kind of obsessed, maybe not obsessed, but very dedicated to the idea of promoting the instrument by recording stuff. And so I've been recording stuff, putting up on Facebook. at home originally. Also, I'd say I was motivated on trying to be a good example for you, for my students.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm in the twilight of my career. I mean, I'm 69, that's just reality. I don't think I'm playing too badly, but, 69. So, but I'm not ready to give it up. One of the things that motivates me, I was saying about you get used to playing at a certain level. I know that someday I will lose that level that I worked 50 years to learn, plus. I'm not ready. Even if it's to play in my living room and make videos for Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to give it up. I love it too much. And, as someone who's been a workaholic forever, the question that's been asked of me and has been a topic around our household is, what would you do if you retired? And this has been a sort of forced try at retirement in a way. And I realized one of the most fun things I enjoy in life is playing my instrument. So I think even if I were to retire, I'd just keep playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just keep playing because I love it too much, and I'm not like a tennis player or a golfer or a fisherman. And I would just keep doing it. And luckily, you see me with my gray hair and you think I know what I'm talking about, so you're foolish enough to come and study with me. So probably I can do that for quite a while yet. And so my motivations during this time are my own sense of wanting to maintain and even improve my playing, learn some new repertoire, share my playing with people, connect with people all over the world, and I want to help promote Mr. Leitzinger's bassoon. I want to be a good role model for my students and for players. And I've had some students say, I heard your Paganini and it got me practicing. I hadn't been playing and it got me going. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, that's a gift to me because, I'm sure a piece like that is show off. That's a hot dog piece. But the things I'm doing in general, if that brings someone some pleasure, and if it helps someone to get out of the doldrums of this very difficult time, then I feel like, life is worth living, like I did something good, something worth, contributing. And just like you're doing this series, and you're at the other end of the road, you're building your careers, I'm kind of saying, to quote Monty Python, I'm not dead yet. That I'm still able to do it.
Yeah.
As much as I can, not perfect. I play better as well as I used to, I don't know, but I don't think it's embarrassing. And it's making me practice that need to be able to be proud of myself and do justice to the music. I mean, I've been almost nowhere in 6 months now, almost. It'll be 6 months soon. And just, another week or two. And that's hard to imagine, 6 months. Yeah. But it has been. For everyone else, I don't mean just me, but just talking about my own situation.
Yeah.
And I accept it, but I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
I accept the situation, and now I'm going to make the best of it. I'm not going to succumb to it.
Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in to the first episode of the Marea and Friends concert series with guest artist Frank Morelli. At this time, we would like to take a moment to introduce the last piece, which is entitled Look for the Silver Lining. The music was written by Jerome Kern, and the lyrics were written by B.G. De Silva. This piece is very fitting for the pandemic in a time when we are all looking for silver linings in our day-to-day life. This song was originally used in the unsuccessful musical Zip Goes a Million, but then later was used in the musical Sally, in which experienced great success. This song was the basis for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, and they entitled it Look for the Union label. We are very grateful this evening to be sharing the stage with not only the godfather of bassoon, but my real father, David Katz. And if you're watching tonight, which I know you are, I love you, Dad, and I'm so glad that we got to do this together.
And we hope that you will tune in next week for our episode featuring 4 female actresses from Broadway, including Afra Hines from Hadestown, Elizabeth Welch, and Megan Paterno from The Phantom of the Opera, and Lauren Cherdulo from Aladdin. This episode will include performances and conversations with all 4 of those ladies, and we hope that you will tune in 7 p.m. next Saturday, same place, same time.
Thank you so much to all of our friends who tuned in tonight, and we can't wait to keep creating virtual concert experiences with you.
Look for the silver lining whene'er a cloud appears in the blue. Remember somewhere the sun is shining.
I'm getting a lesson tonight.
The lesson.
Now I'm going to have to charge you. Up till then, I was doing this for free.
I know.
You shouldn't have said that. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to give you the COVID 100% off special.
Oh, thank you.
Easy come, easy go, baby. You know what I'm saying?